Prince Charles appeared to fight back tears as he stood alongside his siblings, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and Prince Andrew. Camilla, Queen Consort, and Sophie, Countess of Wessex also watched on. This ceremony, the Vigil of the Princes, was first carried out in 1936 for the late King George V. King Charles previously stood in vigil when the Queen Mother died, when his 4 grandsons carried out the duty. This live blog is now closed. Royal Family Live. Charles fights tears as he leads emotional vigil with Anne and Edward. Image, Getty. Key events: Prince and Princess of Wales to meet Queen's coffin in London. 19:57 Mourners begin viewing Queen's coffin. 18:25 1-minute silence to be held across the nation on Sunday. 12:07 Tensions remain as Harry and Meghan spark incredulity from insiders. 11:03 King Charles III to lead behind Queen's coffin in poignant ceremony. 10:26 1 hour ago. 05:37 Emma Crabtree. Paddington Bears left for Queen Elizabeth II will now be collected and stored. Paddington teddies left in memory of the Queen will now be collected and stored, but organisers are still deciding what to do with the iconic toys. People across Britain have been leaving tributes in the form of Paddington teddy bears and marmalade sandwiches, Paddington's signature snack, in the memory of the Queen. The memorial gifts are a reference to a video sketch made in celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee earlier this year, in which Paddington Bear and Her Majesty have afternoon tea at Buckingham Palace. Royal Parks have announced that any Paddington teddy bears left in honour of the Queen will now be stored. Royal Parks is a charity in charge of overseeing royal parks in London that once belonged to the royal family and is in charge of the memorial area of Green Park located near Buckingham Palace. In a statement to the Mail Online, Royal Parks said they would collect all teddies and artifacts and decide on what to do with them with discretion and sensitivity. Organisers are still asking people to only bring flowers not wrapped in any plastic. However, cards are acceptable and will also be stored later. The announcement comes after the organisation asked people to stop leaving non-floral objects yesterday, as toys, balloons and other plastics are bad for the environment. 1 hour ago. 05:36 Emma Crabtree queues past midnight. Huge crowds arrive as Queen's Vigil opens at St Giles Cathedral. The Queen's Vigil at St Giles Cathedral led to very long waits which even stretched past midnight, the Scottish Government has said. A vigil for the public to pay their respects to Queen Elizabeth II opened at around 5:30 p.m. yesterday and will remain open overnight. It will close today at 3 p.m. before Princess Anne will accompany the coffin from Edinburgh Airport to RAF Northolt in London. The Scottish Government last night issued an update warning the public about the queues seen outside St Giles Cathedral. In a social media update at around 8:30 p.m, the Scottish Government said, "Be aware that there are very long waits for the vigil for Her Majesty the Queen at St Giles Cathedral." Waiting times for the vigil queue stretch past midnight. Come prepared and dressed for the weather as long queues are expected. The temperature will drop overnight. A subsequent update at around 11 p.m. added, queue times for the vigil for Her Majesty the Queen at St Giles Cathedral are very long. You may have to queue through the night. If you come, be prepared for the weather as the temperature has dropped. Think about how you'll get home. Public transport is limited overnight. According to Weather Service website Xcharts, temperatures in the Scottish capital could plummet to single figures overnight. Mercury could even reach 9.6 C in Edinburgh at around 6 a.m., having peaked at 16.8 C on Monday afternoon. 2 hours ago. 04:32 Emma Crabtree. Mike Tindall posts second touching tribute to Queen Elizabeth of a crying corgi. Mike Tindall has posted a second tribute to Queen Elizabeth II on his Instagram page featuring a crying corgi. Mr. Tyndall married the Queen's granddaughter Zara Phillips in 2011 and took to social media to pay tribute to his wife's late grandmother. The former rugby player posted a picture of a sketch of a crying corgi sitting next to the imperial crown, which has a tennis ball on top. Mike had previously posted a photo of the Sydney Opera House, which had a photograph for the late monarch projected onto its iconic sails. The picture was initially posted by the Sydney Morning Herald with the description, "We are well used to seeing the Sydney Opera House illuminated to mark significant events, but tonight's image is above and beyond." The sails have been illuminated to pay respect to the late Queen Elizabeth II. Tributes from the royals online have only been made by King Charles, Prince William, and Prince Harry so far. It is thought that more statements and tributes will emerge over the next few days leading up to the state funeral. The sketch was posted on the Instagram account at Danielle.Hart with another sketch of the same corgi having the quote, "Ma'am, you will be truly missed." The creator Danielle wrote, "Folks, to say I'm overwhelmed by the response to this little tribute to our faultless queen would be an understatement. It's only gone and gone viral. It's been copied and shared beyond what I can even comprehend, and in turn I've had countless requests to create it as an official limited edition. I'm afraid on this occasion I shan't be doing that. I would never want to make profit off the back of the loss of our amazing queen. This was simply my own personal response to all of our loss." She added, "When the official period of mourning is over, I sell the original art with every penny going to the Dogs Trust, whom the Queen was patron of. God bless our wonderful Queen." 4 hours ago 03:21 Emma Crabtree Queen tries to recall names of all of her cherished corgis in touching resurfaced video. The Queen has been seen in a resurfaced video trying to recall the names of all of her corgis as she walked them on her Norfolk estate. In 2006, Her Majesty introduced her pack of corgis to the public while she walked them at Sandringham. The clip shows the Queen walking about 9 dogs, with the majority being traditional Welsh corgis and some dorgies, which is a cross between a dachshund and a Welsh corgi. The monarch was dressed in a green country waxed coat paired with a floral headscarf as she gave her beloved pets treats from her pocket as she recalled their names to the camera. The Queen has grown up around corgis for the majority of her life, with reports estimating that she has owned over 30. Her Majesty also owned a number of dorgies and was distraught when her dorgi called Vulcan, who featured in the clip, died in 2020. In June, the Queen was gifted a new dorgi puppy by Prince Andrew and his daughters, Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice. At the age of 7, Princess Elizabeth and her younger sister Princess Margaret were gifted a Pembrokeshire Welsh corgi from their father King George VI. The small dog has become a symbol of the British monarchy, and those now left after her death will be given to Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson to care for. During the 3-minute clip, the dogs could be seen running out of the doors of Sandringham and barking raucously as they ran around. The Queen then pointed to various dogs and said, "Lynette, no, that's Emma. That's mother, daughter, Lynette. Lynette's daughters, brother, Lynette's other children, and those are 2 different dorgies." She continued, "Moni, Willow, and Holly, and Vulcan and Candy, the smallest. This is all the same family," she added, and then pointed to another dog and said, "I had her mother, my mama had her mother, and then we only had dogs, so I brought this one back. So, there's her," and her father turned out to be black corgi, and we'd never had a black corgi before, so I've got 2 of those. 5 hours ago 02:06 Emma Crabtree King Charles Ives succession after Queen's death sees swans get a new owner. King Charles III's succession after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II sees swans across the nation get a new owner. The King's succession has already enacted many changes which have been clear to the public over the past few days. The Queen's passing has seen changes in titles for the King, the Queen Consort and the Prince and Princess of Wales, to name a few. However, other changes are much more discreet and written deeply in history, including that upon becoming monarch, Charles inherited many swans from up and down the country. On Monday, David Barber, the Queen's swan marker of 30 years said, "The King has the right to claim any swan swimming in open waters, unmarked, if he so wishes." Mr. Barber is now swan marker for His Majesty the King, and he added, "Not all the swans belong to the King. But if he wishes to claim them, he can, by the royal prerogative." The swan marker declined to comment on the average number of swans it is thought belonged to the King. In the medieval ages, swans were considered a delicacy, and so the ownership of swans by the wealthy was a major symbol of status. Barber said, "Swans then were an extremely important food source and served up at banquets and feasts, really for the wealthy." He added, as time went on, different people owned swans. The crown gave them the right to them. And they had the young cygnets, and they would fatten them up for the Christmas feasts. Of course, today swans are no longer eaten, and it's all a conservation and education exercise. King Charles III will share ownership of the white swans with ancient trade associations whose swans have a specific mark. 6 hours ago 01:01 Emma Crabtree Queen absolutely on it in meeting with XPM just 48 hours before passing, says Boris. The Queen was absolutely on it in her last meeting with outgoing Prime Minister Boris Johnson just 48 hours before she passed away, Mr. Johnson has stated. The former Prime Minister has spoken out about his final meeting with the monarch at Balmoral last Tuesday, where he formally resigned as Prime Minister and Liz Truss was invited to form her own government. The former PM was highly praised for his statement following Her Majesty's death, in which he called it our country's saddest day and said that the bright and shining light has finally gone out. According to Mr. Johnson, the former monarch was so bright and so focused during their meeting in Scotland. Mr. Johnson said, "The last audience I had with her, one of the reasons it was so shocking on the 8th, to hear about her death, was because in that audience, she had been absolutely on it." The former Prime Minister was interviewed by the BBC and said that he found the news of her death 48 hours after his audience with Her Majesty so shocking because of how the 96-year-old had been. However, Mr. Johnson did note that the monarch was clearly not well after the palace did its best to keep Her Majesty's health private. During the interview he said, just 2 days before her death, she was actively focused on geopolitics, on UK politics, quoting statesmen from the 1950s, "It was quite extraordinary. She seemed very bright, very focused. Look, she was clearly not well." 7 hours ago 00:07 Emma Crabtree GB News, Queen's final journey from Scotland praised as a powerful and unifying symbol. Her Majesty's final journey beginning in Scotland has been praised by Neil Oliver on GB News as a powerful and unifying symbol. On Monday, thousands of Scottish people lined the streets of Edinburgh to pay their respects to the coffin of Queen Elizabeth II. The ever-growing crowd was mainly silent as the coffin made its way up the Royal Mile with the odd shout of "God Save the King" as the Queen's children walked behind the hearse, led by the new King Charles III. A service of remembrance was held at St Giles Cathedral, where the Queen will lie in state until Tuesday afternoon. It is estimated that approximately 20,000 people are waiting in a mile-long queue to file past the coffin to pay their respects to the late monarch. Speaking to GB News host Dan Wootton, historian and television presenter Neil Oliver addressed the rumours that the Queen was the glue holding the United Kingdom together amid calls for an independent Scotland. However, for Mr. Oliver, the historic reaction of the crowds in Edinburgh and across the UK proved that there is something higher than politics at work here, and for him that is history and a common bond shared by the people of the UK. He said, "My own reaction is that I think there is 300 years of shared history that come together as the glue. I think what we're seeing in Scotland, it's not politics. It's people reacting in a human way without any prompting to the loss of someone. Some people feel and felt a connection and whose death they want to mark, and I think that in and of itself is unifying. 7 hours ago 23:43 Emma Crabtree. Good evening, I'm Emma Crabtree. I'll be bringing you all the latest developments on the royals for the next few hours. Please feel free to get in touch with me as I work if you have a story or tips to share. Your thoughts are always welcome. Email, emma.crabtree@reachbook.com. Twitter, @emmacrabtree98. 8 hours ago 22:43 Francesca Edwards. Royal biographer confirms book on Camilla. Royal biographer Angela Levin has confirmed her new biography will be published on September 29. The book will be on Camilla, Queen Consort, and her place in the royal family through past and present. 9 hours ago 22:17 Francesca Edwards. Watch, Queen's 4 children surround her coffin at Edinburgh Vigil. As we have been reporting, the Queen's 4 children surrounded her coffin earlier at St Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh. The 4 children appeared visibly emotional during the 10-minute tribute to their late mother. 9 hours ago 22:05 Francesca Edwards. Kate's touching gesture as Prince William adorably pulls faces at baby and crowds. A sweet gesture by Kate, Princess of Wales, was seen as William, the Prince of Wales, smiled and winked at a baby during a walkabout where the couple read messages of condolence and greeted the crowds. Kate was seen speaking to the mum of a baby while holding the child's hand. When William noticed, he approached and started pulling faces on a baby as he tried to get the child's attention, while Kate was watching and smiling. Read more. 9 hours ago 21:49 Francesca Edwards. Public have a right to protest, say police. The Metropolitan Police have said the public absolutely have a right to protest during the days following the death of the Queen. The force issued a statement following a viral video from Parliament Square in the centre of London, when a barrister who was holding up a blank piece of paper was asked for his details by a police officer. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Stuart Cundy said, "We're aware of a video online showing an officer speaking with a member of the public outside the Palace of Westminster earlier today. The public absolutely have a right of protest, and we have been making this clear to all officers involved in the extraordinary policing operation currently in place, and we will continue to do so." However, the overwhelming majority of interactions between officers and public at this time have been positive, as people have come to the capital to mourn the loss of Her late Majesty the Queen. 9 hours ago 21:38 Francesca Edwards. ITV announces coverage of Queen's funeral. ITV has confirmed it will run live, uninterrupted coverage of the Queen's state funeral at Westminster Abbey on Monday, September 19. The coverage will be preceded by a preview on Good Morning Britain and followed by a documentary chronicling the lead-up to the event, expected to be the largest outside broadcast in the corporation's history. A special program focusing on the funeral will follow, as well as an extended news at 10. ITV confirmed there will be no advertising on any channel on the day, and further details of coverage will be announced in due course. 10 hours ago 21:17 Francesca Edwards. Prince Harry told to scrap major project to honour Charles. Prince Harry has been urged by Piers Morgan to cancel his tell-all memoir after his pledge to honour King Charles. Outspoken broadcaster Mr. Morgan insisted the Duke should pull the plug on his forthcoming book if he wants the public to believe his promise to the new king. Writing for the New York Post, the Talk TV presenter said, "If this book is as bad as the palace fears, all hell will break loose when it's published, and the ensuing furor could depth charge King Charles III's reign before it's even gotten going." So if Harry genuinely wants us to believe he has a desire to honor his father, as he said today, he should tear up his lucrative contract with Penguin Random House and cancel the book. Read more. 10 hours ago 20:58 Francesca Edwards. Hundreds still queuing to see Queen's coffin. Hundreds of people are still queuing up to see the Queen's coffin inside St Giles Cathedral. Well-wishers have been gathering since 7 a.m. on Monday to pay their respects to the late monarch. The queue stretches all the way down George IV Bridge and bends round onto Chambers Street. Hundreds of people are still queuing. Image, Getty. 10 hours ago 20:49 Francesca Edwards video. Camilla's hand shakes as she signs visitors' book following emotional ceremony at Holyrood. Camilla, Queen Consort's hands appeared to shake as she signed the visitors' book at Holyrood. She could be seen firmly gripping the pen as she marked her signature in the book. Both King Charles III and his wife signed the book, described as important for the archives of the Parliament. It is not the first time that Camilla's shaking hands has prompted concern. Back in March, royal fans were left concerned after noticing the Queen Consort's shaky hand at an event for International Women's Day, IWD. Read more. 11 hours ago 20:11 Francesca Edwards in pictures, royal family stand in Vigil. King Charles and his siblings have completed their vigil at St Giles Cathedral. The public continued to pass around the Queen's coffin as Charles, Anne, Andrew and Edwards stood around their mother. Members of the public continued to pass by. Image, PA, the King stood alongside his siblings. Image, PA. 11 hours ago 19:57 Francesca Edwards. Prince and Princess of Wales to meet Queen's coffin in London. The Prince and Princess of Wales will be at Buckingham Palace when the Queen's coffin arrives on Tuesday. The receiving of the coffin will be led by the King and Queen Consort as it arrives at the late Queen's official royal headquarters in London. It is being accompanied back from Scotland on an RAF C-17 aircraft by the Princess Royal and her husband Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence. The Queen's coffin will rest in the bow room at Buckingham Palace overnight, before a procession to the lying-in state on Wednesday. 11 hours ago 19:49 Francesca Edwards. Royal family stand vigil over Queen's coffin. The King, the Queen Consort, the Princess Royal, the Duke of York and the Earl of Wessex are at St Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh for a vigil at the Queen's coffin. The four siblings are each standing on at one end of the coffin. King Charles appeared emotional as the four bowed their heads and members of the public continued to pass by. The Duke of York kept his eyes closed for a period of time during the vigil, while the Princess Royal and Earl of Wessex had their eyes fixed towards the floor. 11 hours ago 19:42 Francesca Edwards in pictures, first mourners leave St Giles Cathedral. The first picture of members of the public leaving St Giles Cathedral where the Queen's coffin is lying in rest. People were pictures hugging and wiping their tears away following air visit. Visitors collected wristbands about a mile away at a station in the Meadows Park earlier on, before queuing through the main University of Edinburgh, some for almost 11 hours. Some people have queued for almost 11 hours. Image, Getty. People comfort each other as they leave. Image, Getty. 11 hours ago 19:31 Francesca Edwards. Queen's children to stand vigil by mother's coffin. King Charles has left Holyrood to head to St Giles Cathedral. He is expected to stand alongside his three siblings, Princess Anne, Prince Andrew and Prince Edwards in a vigil by his mother's coffin. This ceremony, the Vigil of the Princes, was first carried out in 1936 for the late King George V. 12 hours ago 19:21 Francesca Edwards. Boris Johnson shares touching details of final meeting with Queen. Boris Johnson has shared touching details of his final meeting with Queen Elizabeth II. The former Prime Minister last met Her Majesty on September 6. Mr. Johnson told of how she had been absolutely on it, despite appearing ill during the meeting. The MP said she remained actively focused on both world and UK politics, despite being clearly not well. Read more. 12 hours ago 19:02 Francesca Edwards. King Charles meets Scottish ministers. King Charles has been meeting with Scottish ministers. He was photographed meeting with Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon and Presiding Officer Alison Johnston this afternoon ahead of the motion of condolence in Holyrood. 12 hours ago 18:44 Francesca Edwards pictured, moment ray of light shines down on Queen's coffin. A touching moment was caught on camera when a ray of light shined down at the Queen's coffin as it was taken to St Giles Cathedral. Moment ray of light shines down on Queen's coffin. Image, Georgie Gillard, Story Picture Agency. 13 hours ago 18:25 Francesca Edwards. Mourners begin viewing Queen's coffin. Mourners have begun viewing the Queen's coffin after the doors at St Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh opened. The Queen will lay in rest in the cathedral for 24 hours before travelling to London. 4 guards stand at each corner of the coffin. Image, Sky News. Thousands are expected to visit the Queen's coffin. Image, Sky News. 13 hours ago 18:18 Francesca Edwards. More retailers confirm closures on day of Queen's funeral. Sainsbury's and Aldi have become the latest retailers to tell shoppers they will keep stores shut on September 19, the day of Queen Elizabeth II's funeral. Primark and John Lewis confirmed closure plans earlier on Monday. Sainsbury's said it will shut its main supermarkets and Argos shops on the day of the funeral, but said will keep convenience shops and petrol filling stations open during the evening. Retailers are not required to shut their doors on the day of the funeral, and others may choose to open for reduced hours, as many regularly do on other bank holidays. 13 hours ago 18:09 Francesca Edwards. Sturgeon tables motion of condolence. Nicola Sturgeon, the First Minister of Scotland, began her motion of condolence in the Scottish Parliament, saying Scotland stands ready to support King Charles III. "We are honoured by the presence today of His Majesty, King Charles III, and the Queen Consort," she said. "Your Majesty, we stand ready to support you as you continue your own life of service, and as you build on the extraordinary legacy of your beloved mother, our Queen. Queen Elizabeth, Queen of Scots, we are grateful for her life. May she now rest in peace." 13 hours ago 17:47 Francesca Edwards. King arrives at Scottish Parliament. The King and the Queen Consort have arrived at the Scottish Parliament, where tributes will shortly be paid to the Queen as part of a motion of condolence in the debating chamber. They were received in the Queensberry House courtyard by Presiding Officer Alison Johnston and Deputy Presiding Officers Liam MacArthur and Annabel Ewing. The King then met leaders of Scotland's main political parties, Nicola Sturgeon of the SNP, Douglas Ross of the Scottish Conservatives, Anas Sarwar of Scottish Labour, Lorna Slater of the Scottish Greens and Alex Cole-Hamilton of the Scottish Liberal Democrats. 14 hours ago 17:23 Francesca Edwards. People already queuing in London. People are already queuing down the Mall in the hope of catching a glimpse of the Queen on her final journey. The Queen's coffin will be brought to London from Edinburgh on Tuesday, where it will be taken to Westminster Hall. The wait to see the Queen could be more than 24 hours from now. People already queuing in London. Image, PA. 14 hours ago 16:59 Francesca Edwards. Mourners asked to stop leaving these items. Mourners have been asked to stop leaving Paddington bears and plastic-wrapped flowers at royal parks. The parks have asked that only compostable materials are left, asking that wrappings be removed from flowers, and that non-floral gifts such as teddy bears and balloons not be brought. In a touching tribute, some people have also been leaving marmalade sandwiches, in reference to the Queen's Platinum Jubilee sketch with Paddington Bear. Where to lay flowers for the Queen, Image, Express. 14 hours ago 16:42 Francesca Edwards. Huge blow for Harry as Hess not allowed to wear military uniform. Prince Harry, who no longer performs senior royal duties, will not wear military uniform at ceremonies marking the Queen's death. working royals will parade in military uniform. These include the King, the new Prince of Wales, Prince William, formerly the Duke of Cambridge, the Princess Royal and the Earl of Wessex. New York Times writer Omid Scobie has reported in a post on Twitter that unlike Prince Andrew, Prince Harry will not be allowed to wear uniform at the final vigil in Westminster Hall. He said this would be a huge blow for the Duke of Sussex, who served for 10 years and this morning spoke of the Queen being his commander-in-chief. Read more. 15 hours ago 16:30 Francesca Edwards' service of Thanksgiving ends. The service of Thanksgiving has now ended. The Queen's coffin will rest at St Giles Cathedral for 24 hours before being taken to London on Tuesday. The Queen's coffin will lay in rest. Image, Getty. 15 hours ago 16:08 Francesca Edwards. Queen Elizabeth II has gone home. The Queen has gone home after a long and happy reign, the service has been told. The Right Reverend Dr. Ian Greenshields, moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland, spoke about her extraordinary life. Reverend Greenshields told the congregation that tributes to Her Majesty have poured in, but it was now beginning to sink in that she is gone from us, gone home, to express her own words. 15 hours ago 15:59 Francesca Edwards. Hundreds turn out on streets of Edinburgh. Hundreds of people turned out at the entrance of St Giles Cathedral to greet the Queen's coffin. In place, the crowd seemed to be between 20 and 30 people deep. The crowd was quiet as the procession, which featured the coffin bearer party, servicemen from the Royal Regiment of Scotland, flanking the hearse, and they in turn were flanked by the King's bodyguard for Scotland. The silence was broken at one point by a woman who called out "God bless the Queen" a number of times. The crowds remained quiet. Image, Getty. 15 hours ago 15:35 Francesca Edwards' service of Thanksgiving begins. At the beginning of the service, Reverend Callum MacLeod welcomed the royal family, representatives of our nation's life and people whose lives were touched by the Queen in so many unforgettable ways. He said, "And so we gather to bid Scotland's farewell to our late monarch, whose life of service to the nation and the world we celebrate, and whose love for Scotland was legendary." 16 hours ago 15:20 Francesca Edwards' video, man runs out in front of King Charles' car. King Charles' aides were on high alert earlier today when a man jumped on the A40 in front of the monarch's car. Footage from Sky News captured the moment a man ran into heavy traffic on the road in West London before appearing to photograph King Charles in his motorcade. The man can be seen running to catch up with the monarch's state limousine as he headed to RAF Northolt. A royal protection officer quickly reacted to the danger and alerted security teams in the Range Rover behind. 2 royal bodyguards appeared from the passenger doors ready to tackle the man if needed, but he quickly returned to the pavement, allowing the royal convoy to continue. Read more. 16 hours ago 15:17 Francesca Edwards' Queen's coffin arrives at St Giles Cathedral. The Queen's coffin has arrived at St Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh. The service of Thanksgiving is expected to last around an hour. Following the service, the public will be given the opportunity to pay their respects to the Queen for 24 hours before it is taken to London to lie in state. Queen's coffin arrives at St Giles Cathedral. Image, BBC. 16 hours ago 15:04 Francesca Edwards. Good afternoon. I'm Francesca Edwards. I'll be bringing you all the latest developments on the royal family. Please feel free to get in touch with me as I work if you have a story or tips to share. Your thoughts are always welcome. Email, francesca.edwards@reachbook.com. Twitter, @FrankieLEdwards. 16 hours ago 14:55 Olivia Stringer. 21 gun salute heard from Edinburgh Castle as the procession makes its way down the Royal Mile. The sound of the minute gun in the sky from Edinburgh Castle could be heard in the distance. God bless the Queen, someone shouted 3 times. Police officers standing guard turned their faces to the crowd in solemn deference. People stood leaning out of shops and on stairwells to witness the coffin process. On either side of the Royal Mile, bunting in place above the shops marked the summer 70th Platinum Jubilee. King Charles III leaned heavily on a staff that he was holding as he walked behind the hearse with his siblings. A child's voice rang out. The hearse was followed by the Royal Company of Archers, the King's bodyguards in Scotland. 21-gun salute heard from Edinburgh Castle. Image, BBC, 16 hours ago. 14:52 Francesca Edwards. Queen's 4 children walk behind the coffin. The Queen's 4 children, led by King Charles, are walking behind their mother's coffin. King Charles III, Princess Anne, Prince Edward are all dressed in military uniform. Prince Andrew, although not in military uniform, was wearing his medals pinned to the lapel of a dark suit. Queen's 4 children walk behind the coffin. Image, BBC, 16 hours ago. 14:50 Olivia Stringer. Crowd silent at procession makes its way up the Royal Mile. The crowds in Edinburgh watched in complete silence as the Queen's coffin made its journey from St Giles Cathedral accompanied by her 4 children, Princess Anne, King Charles III, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward following. All were in military uniform except Andrew. You could hear a pin drop, it was so quiet. No sound could be heard. Behind crash barriers, the crowds were up to 12 deep in places. The sun shone on Edinburgh as the solemn parade made its way through the city. Even the police horse leading the parade's hooves were quiet. A few people held up cameras to capture the historic moment. 16 hours ago. 14:48 Olivia Stringer. The procession has now begun. The procession of the Queen's coffin has now begun. The Queen's 4 children are behind the coffin, all in military uniform except Andrew, who is no longer a working royal. The procession has now begun. Image, BBC, 16 hours ago. 14:45 Olivia Stringer. Queen's coffin placed in hearse. The Queen's coffin has been placed in a hearse and is being flanked by the King's bodyguard. Queen's coffin placed in hearse. Image, BBC, 16 hours ago. 14:38 Olivia Stringer. Queen's coffin leaves Holyrood House. The Queen's coffin has just left Holyrood House. The national anthem was played as the coffin left the palace. Queen's coffin leaves Holyrood House. Image, BBC, 16 hours ago. 14:34 Olivia Stringer. PM arrives at St Giles Cathedral. Liz Truss has arrived at St Giles Cathedral for this afternoon's service. PM arrives at St Giles Cathedral. Image, BBC, 17 hours ago. 14:09 Olivia Stringer. Kate and William have a practical reason not to hold hands in public. The Prince and Princess of Wales have a practical reason for not holding hands in public, according to a body language expert. Judy James said, William and Kate's habit of not holding hands in public seems to be based on a conscious decision rather than any aversion to this particular form of PDA, public display of affection. They were photographed off-camera walking through a hotel lobby this year holding hands happily like any other couple, so the choice to allow their arms to hang close but with the hands not quite touching seems to be deliberate. Their more tactile PDAs include back touches or placing an arm around each other's waists. These gestures reflect high levels of affection and attraction, so there might be a practical reason to avoid the hand clasp. Judy continued, as senior royals at events, the hand clasp might be seen as a clumsy ritual when there are many hands to shake and so many people to greet one at a time. Read more. 17 hours ago. 13:35 Olivia Stringer. Lord Provost hands King Charles the keys to the city. The Lord Provost has now handed King Charles the keys to the city in the ceremony of the keys. He will hand them back when he leaves Edinburgh tomorrow. Royal Provost hands King Charles the keys to the city. Image, BBC, 18 hours ago. 13:29 Olivia Stringer. Royal Standard raised to full mast. The Royal Standard has been raised to full mast following the arrival of the King. Royal Standard raised to full mast. Image, BBC, 18 hours ago 13:23 Olivia Stringer. King Charles greets army officers. The King is now greeting army officers at Holyrood. King Charles greets army officers. Image, BBC, 18 hours ago 13:19 Olivia Stringer. King and Queen Consort arrive at Holyrood House. The King and Queen Consort have now arrived at Holyrood House, where the ceremony of the keys is about to take place. King and Queen Consort arrive at Holyrood House. Image, Getty, 18 hours ago 13:10 Olivia Stringer. King and Queen Consort travelling down Royal Mile. The King and Queen Consort are now travelling down the Royal Mile to Holyrood House. King and Queen Consort travelling down Royal Mile. Image, Getty, 18 hours ago 13:01 Olivia Stringer. Royal convoy makes its way to the centre of Edinburgh. The royal convoy is now making its way to the centre of Edinburgh. Royal convoy makes its way to the centre of Edinburgh. Image, BBC, 18 hours ago 12:53 Olivia Stringer. Crowds gather on Royal Mile ahead of procession. Large crowds are gathering along the Royal Mile ahead of the procession of the Queen's coffin from Holyrood House to St Giles Cathedral. Crowds gather on Royal Mile ahead of procession. Image, PA, 18 hours ago 12:38 Olivia Stringer. King Charles and Camilla arrive in Edinburgh. King Charles and Camilla have now arrived in Edinburgh for this afternoon's procession. King Charles and Camilla arrive in Edinburgh. Image, BBC, 19 hours ago 12:24 Olivia Stringer. King Charles deeply grateful for condolences from Parliament. King Charles said he was deeply grateful for the messages of condolences from the House of Lords and the House of Commons, in his reply to the address of condolence at Westminster Hall. He said, "I am deeply grateful for the addresses of condolence by the House of Lords and the House of Commons, which so touchingly encompass what our late sovereign, my beloved mother the Queen, meant to us all." 19 hours ago 12:07 Olivia Stringer. 1 minute silence to be held across the nation on Sunday. There will be a 1-minute silence held at 8 p.m. on Sunday across the nation to pay tribute to the Queen, Number 10 has announced. 19 hours ago 12:02 Olivia Stringer. Kate, Princess of Wales was regarded as safe pair of hands. Princess Kate was regarded as a safe pair of hands by the Queen. Speaking to the Royally Us podcast earlier this year, Joe Little, managing editor of Majesty magazine said, "It's speculation and conjecture, but you would think the Queen very much regarded Kate as a safe pair of hands. She's been a member of the royal family for 10 years now. But she was very much on the scene for quite a few years prior to that because, as well documented, Kate and William were living together, which in itself was quite revolutionary. I think given all that's gone on in the royal family over the past few years, the supposed fallouts, the Duke of York and the death of the Duke of Edinburgh, the Queen had great trust in Kate." Read more. 19 hours ago 11:40 Olivia Stringer. Tents appear on the Mall. Tents have started appearing on the Mall as people prepare for the Queen's coffin being taken by procession from Buckingham Palace to the Palace of Westminster on Wednesday. Tents appear on the Mall. Image, PA, 20 hours ago 11:19 Olivia Stringer. King heads to Edinburgh. The King and Queen Consort have left Westminster Hall and are making their way to Edinburgh for this afternoon's procession. King heads to Edinburgh. Image, PA, 20 hours ago 11:11 Olivia Stringer in pictures. King and Queen Consort's visit to Westminster Hall. King Charles and Camilla, Queen Consort visited Westminster Hall this morning to receive condolences. King and Queen Consort's visit to Westminster Hall. Image, Getty, King and Queen Consort visit Westminster Hall. Image, Getty, 20 hours ago 11:07 Olivia Stringer met Police Commissioner swears oath to King. Met Police Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley took his oath and swore allegiance to His Majesty the King this morning. He said, "As your new commissioner, I have sworn an oath to serve with fairness, integrity, diligence and impartiality." 20 hours ago 11:03 Olivia Stringer. Tensions remain as Harry and Meghan spark incredulity from insiders. Tensions between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and Prince William and Princess Kate remain high, despite Saturday's walkabout, insiders have claimed. On Saturday, the Prince of Wales extended an olive branch to his brother and asked him and his wife Meghan to appear alongside the Waleses to greet the public at Windsor Castle, their first public appearance together since March 2020. However, insiders have claimed that although the brothers are putting on a united front in honor of the Queen, tensions remain high. One source told The Telegraph, "It's quite hard to spend too much time with someone you know is about to publish a tell-all book about you." Another added, "The general reaction to Harry and Meghan's behavior has been one of incredulity." Prince Harry's tell-all memoir is expected to be released by the end of the year and is predicted to add even more strain to the brothers' relationship. Harry and William have struggled to see eye to eye since the Sussexes stepped down from senior royal duties in 2020 and relocated to the US. 21 hours ago 10:26 Olivia Stringer. King Charles III to lead behind Queen's coffin in poignant ceremony. King Charles III is expected to lead behind the Queen's coffin today in a poignant ceremony as his mother is taken from Holyrood House to St Giles Cathedral. The public will then be able to pay their respects to the Queen's coffin for 24 hours before it is taken to London to lie in state. The King is expected to lead senior members of the royal family while Camilla and other members of the family will follow behind in cars. King Charles III to lead behind Queen's coffin in poignant ceremony. Image, Getty. 21 hours ago 10:03 Olivia Stringer. Watch, King Charles and Camilla visit Parliament. King Charles and Camilla are visiting Westminster Hall this morning in their first visit to Parliament since becoming King and Queen consort. Watch the live stream below. 21 hours ago 09:58 Olivia Stringer. Harry and Meghan need to make promise to King Charles and William. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle need to make a promise to King Charles and Prince William to respect their privacy in the coming weeks, according to a royal expert. Speaking on Australian Network 7 News, columnist Angela Mollard said, "I think it's up to Harry to make a promise to his brother and his father that nothing that happens this week will go further. It's like living with a mole within your family." It was only 2 weeks ago in the Cut interview that Meghan said that she could say anything. "I think that is incredibly difficult for the royal family, whether or not they can actually have open conversations with Harry and Meghan knowing that it could be reported forward." Read more. 21 hours ago 09:36 Olivia Stringer. Prince Harry pays tribute to Queen. Prince Harry has released a statement paying tribute to his grandmother the Queen. He said, "In celebrating the life of my grandmother, Her Majesty the Queen, and in mourning her loss, we are all reminded of the guiding compass she was to so many in her commitment to service and duty." Recalling the words he spoke to her following the passing of his grandfather, he said, "Life, of course, consists of final partings as well as first meetings." He added, "Granny, while this final parting brings us great sadness, I am forever grateful for all of our first meetings, from my earliest childhood memories with you, to meeting you for the first time as my Commander-in-Chief, to the first moment you met my darling wife and hugged your beloved great-grandchildren." Prince Harry said he cherishes the time he spent with the Queen and said he honors his father's new role as king. He said, "Thank you for your commitment to service. Thank you for your sound advice. Thank you for your infectious smile. We, too, smile knowing that you and Grandpa are reunited now, and both together in peace." Prince Harry pays tribute to Queen. Image, Getty. 22 hours ago 09:29 Olivia Stringer. Lilibet Diana and Archie's presence for funeral would be special for King Charles III. Meghan and Harry's children's presence at the Queen's funeral would be special for King Charles, a royal expert has said. Speaking to GB News, Kinsey Schofield said, "We're trying to debate whether Doria will attend or, at least, bring Archie, 3, and Lilibet, 1, back over, to the UK." Lily spent her first birthday over, in the UK, so she's familiar with their Windsor home. Ms. Schofield added that it would be nice to have them around, to see the family members, love on their aunts and uncles and grandfather. "I think that would be important. I think that would be important to King Charles to have all of his grandchildren there to mourn with him. I think that would be really special." She continued, "I don't know if we would see that much of them," adding that "I'm sure Harry and Meghan are missing them." Read more. 22 hours ago 09:14 Olivia Stringer. Harry received 11th-hour text message from William for Windsor outing. Prince William invited Harry on the Windsor walkabout at the last minute, an insider has revealed. Referring to the fact that the Queen died at Balmoral Castle, the source told the Daily Mail, "It happened very quickly, remarkable really considering they didn't see each other in Scotland." The source denied William had acted at the suggestion of his father, insisting that was absolutely not the case, but rather a spontaneous gesture on the part of the newly created Prince of Wales. Speaking on Saturday, another source said, "The Prince of Wales thought it was an important show of unity at an incredibly difficult time for the family." Read more. Harry received 11th-hour text message from William for Windsor outing. Image, Getty. 22 hours ago 08:42 Olivia Stringer. Queues of up to 30 hours expected as Queen lies in state as 750,000 descend on London. Queues of up to 30 hours are expected to see the Queen lying in state, ahead of her funeral next Monday. According to Times Red Box editor Patrick Maguire, Culture Secretary Michelle Donnellan has just told Tory MPs queues at Westminster Hall could be as long as 30 hours. Ms. Donnellan said unprecedented demand is anticipated. Other reports suggest up to 1 million will head to Westminster in the hope of seeing Her Majesty's coffin. People who wish to pay their respects to Britain's longest-reigning monarch can visit the Palace of Westminster in London and join 24-hour lines from Wednesday at 5 p.m. They have until 6:30 a.m. on September 19, just hours before Her Majesty's funeral, to see the Queen's coffin. Read more. 23 hours ago 08:24 Olivia Stringer. Princess Anne quietly struggling. Princess Anne is quietly struggling following the Queen's death, according to a body language expert. Speaking to Express.co.uk, Judy James said, "The photographs of the royals collectively mourning the Queen have been sad, but it's the poses of the rather isolated-looking Princess Anne, who really does look like a woman desperate to channel her mother's famous skill of stoicism and stiff upper lip, but quietly struggling, that are really upsetting." We have seen Charles watery-eyed over his darling mama, and we have seen the other top-tier royals offering mutual hugs and other forms of unity and sympathy as they weep and comfort each other together. But Anne seems to have taken on the role of offering quiet strength and stability throughout. Read more. Princess Anne quietly struggling. Image, Getty. 23 hours ago 07:58 Olivia Stringer. King Charles makes first visit to Parliament. King Charles will begin the day with a visit to Westminster Hall. This will be his first visit to Parliament as monarch. Accompanied by Queen Camilla, he will hear addresses from the Commons Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle and the Lord Speaker Lord McFall, who will offer condolences on behalf of their houses. The King will then reply to the addresses. Westminster Hall is also where the Queen's coffin will lie in state for public viewing. King Charles makes first visit to Parliament. Image, Getty. 23 hours ago 07:56 Olivia Stringer. Harry and William tipped to walk side by side at Queen's funeral. Prince William and Prince Harry could walk side by side behind the Queen's coffin at her funeral. The brothers were separated by their cousin Peter Phillips during the procession for Prince Philip's funeral 17 months ago amid a series of disagreements. However, they put aside their differences yesterday when William invited Harry and wife Meghan to go on a walkabout at Windsor Castle, their first public appearance together since March 2020. There will now be discussions about whether the two brothers will again be side by side at their grandmother's funeral, The Sun reports. Harry and William have barely spoken since the Sussexes stepped down from senior royal duties in 2020, sparking turbulence in the firm. The Queen's funeral will be a public holiday, and will be held on September 19. 23 hours ago 07:41 Olivia Stringer. Good morning, I'm Olivia Stringer and I'll be bringing you all the latest developments on the royal family for the next 8 hours. Please feel free to get in touch with me as I work if you have a story or tips to share. Your thoughts are always welcome. Email olivia.stringer@reachbook.com.